you spend much time in Mexico or the Caribbean, you know the palace resorts, even if you can't afford to stay there. And if you can, and if you have, you may have had the time of your life. Palace properties are 5-star, all-inclusive beach resorts in Jamaica, the Dominican Republic, and especially Mexico. They are hotels, yes, but they also offer timeshares, lots of them. And if you think I'm about to warn you about the fine print when signing on to a timeshare, no, 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 my friends. This is not Consumer Reports. Tonight, this story is more like Midnight Express. Because a dispute with the Palace Corporation over a timeshare, both the payments and the promises, has landed a Michigan couple in a Mexican prison, and not just any Mexican prison. Paul and Christy Akeo are in a maximum security Mexican prison near the eastern resort city of Cancun. It is a fight that most of us Americans would think should have landed in civil court. But as it turns out, the Mexican government doesn't think like America. The couple's U.S. attorney calls the prison that is holding the Akeos a hellhole. And as of tonight, the Akeos have been stuck in there for 27 days. I want to read for you part of a letter that their lawyer wrote to opposing counsel with Palace Resorts. Here's how it goes. Your clients have captured, kidnapped, battered, assaulted, falsely imprisoned, threatened, intimidated, belittled, harassed, libeled, and engaged in a course of such horrific and outrageous civil and criminal conduct against these two elderly Americans that it is almost incomprehensible. End quote. Let me back up for a hot minute to where the story started. In 2021, Paul Akeo, a 58-year-old U.S. Navy retiree, and his wife, Christy Akeo, a 60-year-old grandmother, they bought a Palace Resorts timeshare. And the following year, in 2022, they pulled out, or they tried to, claiming that the company didn't make good on the promises. They asked the credit card company, American Express, to refund them the payments that they'd already made. Not just a little, a lot, like more than $115,000 worth. And so American Express did its own investigation. And American Express sided with Mr. and Mrs. Akeo. So the couple thought that was it. That was the end of it. Lesson learned. But there were much harder lessons just ahead. Palace Resorts decided to tell the police, reportedly, that the Akeos had committed fraud. And so when Paul and Christy flew to Cancun on March 4th for another vacation at another resort, the Mexican police arrested them. Needless to say, their daughter back in Michigan is worried sick.
Comprehend what's happening, trying to figure out how to get into some sort of communication with our parents. I mean, through the 21 days, we haven't talked to my stepdad, Paul, one time. My mom usually gets a phone call a day. It's not for very long at all. It's basically a phone call that she gets until somebody in the background will tell her to get off the phone, and then she has to hang up.
This can happen, folks. So NewsNation's Nancy Liu has been watching this story, or should I say this nightmare, every step of the way, and she has this background report. Take a look.
Relatives of Paul and Christy Akeo claim this is a case of corruption and extortion stemming from a financial dispute with the Palace Resorts Company, which they thought had been settled already. Instead, check out this footage of the Michigan couple being taken into custody earlier this month when they returned to Cancun. Mexican authorities had placed a notice on the Akeo's passports due to outstanding criminal fraud charges, and the Americans have since been held without bond in a maximum security prison. Relatives are worried sick.
Every second of every day, we are concerned for their safety, especially with the lack of communication or no communication. The idea that they're sitting in a maximum security prison over a timeshare dispute at best is is unacceptable.
According to Mexican authorities, Christy Akeo signed a timeshare contract in 2021, providing a credit card to purchase a membership with the Palace Company, which operates resorts in Mexico and Jamaica. Paul Akeo later challenged 13 charges on his credit card, totaling more than $113,000. And according to their attorney, American Express sided with the Akeos. The money was returned and the membership was canceled. Attorney John Manley tells NewsNation the Palace Resorts is now demanding $250,000 for the couple to be released, and he describes the prison where they're being held as a hellhole. We've reached out to the Palace Resorts Company for comment, and so far no response. Michigan's governors and lawmakers are now involved, also seeking assistance from the White House and State Department.
So that's Nancy Liu for you. What appears to have ticked off the Palace Resorts the most is the Akeos complaining about them on Facebook and offering to help other members void their contracts, which is not illegal. But you know when at the top of the show I mentioned Midnight Express? I did that for a reason, because my first guest tonight inspired the 1978 movie that scared the hell out of a generation of Americans about landing in a foreign prison for any reason. Billy Hayes might well have died in a prison in Turkey had he not escaped. And we're also joined by Billy Hayes' lawyer at the time, Dick Atkins, who now specializes in helping Americans navigate legal troubles when overseas. And welcome to both of you. Billy, it's great to have you back on the show.
Nice
I got to ask you this question. When you hear a story like this, do you get like PTSD? Do you feel, oh God, it's like deja vu?
A little bit, yes. I was aware that I was doing something that could lead to an arrest. I was young and foolish, etc. These guys were not expecting this at all, and I think it came as a complete surprise to them. And to be put in a prison at 60 years old, I was 25, I was young and fit. It was hard at 25. It's brutal when you're older, and they should not be in jail. This is a civil matter. It should be settled somewhere outside of a prison.
Billy, there are very few people, I mean, count them on one hand if you can, who know your experience. Can you tell me, walk me through those first moments, those first nights, what the Akeos might be going through as they realize this maximum security prison they're in with rapists and murderers in a foreign country?
Well, obviously, it's frightening. I think Paul, having been in the service all those years, obviously has a discipline about himself that he now has to call into his favor. He needs to be calm. He needs to try and stay as balanced as he can for himself and for Christy. The fact that they haven't been allowed to see each other, that they're separated, that's very troubling. And I'm sure it bothers them more than anything else. The physical conditions of the prison aren't good, but I'm assuming that they're not getting the worst of things yet. The Mexican government is making such a mistake to put these people in jail and creating all of this publicity. People are not going to go on vacation in Mexico if they see what happens to Americans who truly shouldn't be in jail now. They can deal with things legally in a court of law, but this is not the way it should be handled.
Well, that's how I feel. Look, I'm going to give you full disclosure right now. I have visited Palace Resorts many times in Cancun. I never for a moment thought this kind of a thing can happen. And Dick, maybe you can weigh in. Does any of what you're hearing about the Akeos' experience track for Mexico and their legal system?
It certainly does. In Mexico, things which ordinarily would be civil can be either civil or criminal. I'll give you the example. If you're in a car accident in Mexico, it's treated as a criminal matter if someone is hurt. If you are rear-ended and the other person is injured, you will be taken to jail, and you'll be there until somebody takes pity on you and lets you be released. Other things can also be criminal. And in this case, apparently, the Palace Resorts were upset enough to go criminal instead of civil. So it happens in Mexico very often. It doesn't happen very often to Americans who have a lot of support and have TV shows like yours giving publicity, though.
Well, I cannot imagine why Palace Resorts would have, for $115,000 or so, have wanted to get into this dogfight with an American couple, especially a veteran. But I do want to ask you about the State Department and the embassy. Like, what help is the embassy to start with, and then the State Department in a situation like this? And while you're at it, in Billy's situation, because he was there a long time in Turkey before he was able to get out on his own.
Quite a while, actually. About 5 years.
Let Billy answer what the State Department did for him, and then I'll say what they do.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
The American Consul sent someone out the first or second or third day I was there, and they provided me with the basic legal stuff that they needed to do, and a list of Turkish lawyers I could look at. I mean, a list I couldn't even pronounce these names. You need a lawyer as soon as possible because the wheel of justice grinds very slowly, but you want to get out from under it as soon as possible. These folks didn't have a chance. I don't think they had anybody immediately talking to them about their legal options, and the sooner you can exercise your legal options, the better. So they're kind of stuck right now. The good thing is the world is aware of them. I would tell them, if I could, and or their kids, Lindsay, who has been working very hard, stay calm. Stay calm, take care of yourself, do your breathing exercises. Paul probably does physical stuff. He was in the Navy. Take care of yourself. We'll take care of you. Eventually, this will end and you will come home.
And the State Department does very little.
That eventually part scares me, Dick. Yeah, so listen, the son of the Akeo said that he's heard it's possible they'll be held for 6 months possibly before this is resolved. Dick, is there a maximum length of time that they can hold them like this before they actually have to have the kind of rights that we get in retrial?
The first 6 months is almost automatic, but they can be kept in jail until the case is over, and that could take 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 years. Palace can delay it. The fiscal who'll be assigned to it can delay it, and they can be stuck there forever. Hopefully, they won't. They won't survive that long.
And a show
Billy,
like
what do you
yours
think
right
about
now,
the State Department? Go ahead.
I'm sorry. And a show like yours right now, raising their profile, getting the word out, is going to reverberate with the Mexican government. They know this is deadly for their tourism. So why would they want to waste time and effort with these people and hurt their image so badly that people are going to be canceling their vacations? They need to get these people out. They need to get them home, deal with it however you want legally, but get them out of prison. They're 60 years old. They should not be in jail.
I mean, yeah, and a jail is one thing, and a maximum security prison is another. I will also say this. My children were in Mexico with their dad and their stepmom, and they got into a fender bender with a motorcycle, and they were held for a day in a police station with no information. They were absolutely terrified, and ultimately the only way they got out was paying because the local police suggested it. And so they paid hundreds of dollars and they, went on their way. And it was just a terrifying experience. Dick, real quickly, just at the State Department level, do you think this is how this will get resolved? That the U.S. government will see this as just ridiculous and really put the foot on the neck of the Mexican government for this couple?
They can help a little. The State Department does what it can, but they can be of very little help, but they could raise the profile. But as Billy said, your show and other shows and constant news reporting on this is going to do more than what the State Department can do. The president might want to get involved, and he certainly can create such a stir that they had better let them out. He might have a ban on Americans going to Mexico. Things like that are more likely to help than the State Department doing anything that they can. They're quite limited.
Well, I know the Akeos have reached out and begged Donald Trump to step in and help them. I don't know if that'll happen. Billy Hayes, it is always good to talk to you. I so appreciate your wisdom in times like this because this is such a rare occurrence. And Dick Atkins, it's good of you to join too. I appreciate this. And I may call you again. We're watching the story carefully. Thanks, guys.
Anytime. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.